All right, Cory.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming
Alec,
on.
yeah.
You are the first episode in this set in Chicago for me.
Awesome. Well, it's an honor. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
So what brought you to Chicago?
My fiance's family is nearby.
Okay.
So we're planning on getting married in September and then having kids shortly thereafter.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's it's been an interesting change, but I appreciate you kind of coming here. This is the first trial test run.
Awesome.
This is fabulous. I'm so excited to get back in.
Yeah,
it's like, this is my favorite thing, like sitting here talking with people, getting to know you, meet you, and just learn, honestly. Like, you learn so much from all the different people that you do this with. So it's so cool.
And life's about learning, right? Learning, growing, you know what I mean? Like expanding, so.
100%. Could you dive a little bit into like your story, kind of who you are, to give the audience precedence for the rest of the podcast before we dive in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in Oak Park, right? So Oak Park River Forest area, a community that I think is just super unique. I grew up with a ton of diversity, and it's just a really unique community, right? Very opening, and it was just for me, a really great place to grow up. I think in traveling the world, just the education, but also just the exposure to, I think Oak Park was one of the first communities that openly accepted homosexuals, like the gay community. Like I think San Francisco and Oak Park were two of the first. Don't quote me on that, but I think two of the first. So I grew up it was very accepted. I grew up with a lot of different races. And so that was something really important. I mean, now I see how important that was to me. So I grew up in that environment. Growing up in the 80s there, 80s, 90s. Honestly, most of the people that I know are still from that time, right? Most of my close friends, I think, growing up in Oak Park, so many people have their friends from that area, which is like a lot of other people, I think, make friends in college, right? So I grew up in that in that time. It was a lot different then. Oak Park is much more expensive now. The taxes are much higher. So a lot of the kids I grew up with, my family would not be able to live there. We would not be able to afford that community, right? Right now, almost none of the kids I grew up with probably could have afforded the community.
I feel like that's kind of a common thing in the bigger cities right now is like the generation. So there's always the parents that have the house in the really nice neighborhood. And then there's the kids around my age right now. I'm 27. And they're like, okay, I want to buy and be close to my parents in this neighborhood, but there is just zero chance that I'm going to be able to afford something like that. Is that something you see?
Totally. I think it scares me. I'll be completely honest with you. I'm terrified of how expensive it is for younger people to buy a place. You know what I mean? It's challenging. And in addition to which, I think, my generation, your generation, we sort of get shit on a little bit, right? Like, we saved our money, we did this, we did that. Well, Christ, the cost of living is just, the different things that we have to buy on a monthly basis. But more, think about this. Do you think that any of the houses that I sell now are going to go up 10 times in value? Ever? 10 times. That's what most of our parents' homes went up. My dad bought his house, my parents probably for $35,000. It's worth $400,000 or $500,000.
It's crazy.
Do you think that anyone paying $800,000, think about that. I just sold a house for $800,000. Do you think that's going to be worth $8 million someday? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right? So there's we have lack of appreciation. I think not that we're not having appreciation, don't get me wrong, but the appreciation that our parents' generation had, where they can sell their houses and they get a large chunk of change, you know what I mean? Like where huge increase in price.
So I just saw a video and I'm coming from Miami, right? Just moved up here from Miami. Oceanfront property in Miami Beach in 1930. This guy's parents bought it for $100,000. Today it appraised at $46 million. Right? So what he said is this is a testament to the U.S. dollar, right? Real estate's automatically a hedge against the U.S. dollar in and of itself, which is a different conversation. But the U.S. dollar has lost 99.9% of its purchasing power. And seeing that video, it made me think, and I was like, okay, that's a very interesting way to approach it and look at it. So I don't know where I'm going with that, but I just wanted to throw that in there. It's crazy, man. Like,
I mean, I think real estate's a great investment. Not for everybody though, right? It can be a great investment, but it's work, right? I mean, people don't realize that it is work.
Passive, yeah.
You know what I mean? The idea of passive income is like, when a toilet breaks, who's fixing? You know what I mean? Like you're doing something, right? It's not as easy as you think. It's work along the way. You know what I mean? And like, I mean, people need to work to make money, right? But like, I think the idea that it's this easy thing to do, and that you're just like all investors are these rich people is not. It's not realistic. I mean,
majority of real estate investors live damn near paycheck to paycheck because every penny that comes in goes to the next real estate.
Absolutely.
Deal. Like we're cash poor people. Like across, like majority of us are cash poor people.
And I mean, the idea, like, well, you know, people out of renters, landlords, this and that. It's like, you know, I own some rentals with my ex-wife. I don't own them anymore. And like, I mean, you're, you know, $200-300 a month, you know, whatever. You're not getting rich off that, right? Like over time, you're going to sell it. You're going to pay down. You know, someone else is paying down your mortgage, but it's not like you're rolling in. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, so a lot of investors are more like mom and pop, right? They're not the big corporations.
Got a couple properties here. And there. Yeah,
right. And you know, the big corporations, I think sometimes give it a bad name for tenants and whatnot. But anyways, it's just not. I think the misconceptions. In addition, also like flippers. You know how many flippers lose money? And people think, oh my gosh, look, they bought it for this, they sold it for this. You know how much, most of them have hard money loans, right? I mean, I worked with one of my biggest clients was investors. There's actually an interesting story how I got this happened, right? So before I got into real estate, so what happened, I was working for FEMA. I was working for the federal government and I fell in love, right? Literally the first day before I went to FEMA. Like, so I met my ex-wife on a Sunday and I left to go my first deployment. And when I was on deployment, I was away for months. Like literally, I could have been in New York for 2 years if I wanted to. They wanted me to stay, right? I was there for 9 months. So
wait, sorry, you were on deployment to New York?
To New York, yeah.
Okay.
I would get deployed. That's how I worked. And if I wasn't deployed, I wasn't getting paid.
Are you military?
No. It's so like for disasters and stuff, right?
I see, yeah.
It was like a federal, like a disaster assistance employee, right?
I'm Army, so I heard you say deployed.
Okay.
I was like, okay, maybe he is just using that word because he's been deployed before.
But no, I was technically, I mean, we worked under the military command, right? So we worked under the same structure that that the military works under, right? When we were deployed. So, I mean, if I wanted to make money, I had to be away from home.
Sure.
That was it. And if I was at home, I wasn't getting paid. This was during the recession, right?
Sure.
So I was actually living in Brazil. I left. I went to Brazil to live there, and I was during the recession. I was actually there in October of 2008 when everything crashed, right? And I was just like, it was tough, and so it was tough to make a living. But actually, I probably would have, if I stayed there, I probably would have made more money because I came back here and didn't realize how devastating the economy was, right? I mean, I was doing 3 jobs. I was working at Farmers Market in Oak Park, delivering pizzas, working at a tree care. I mean, I was doing anything I could. It was really difficult to find a job. I mean, I did the census. People with PhDs were there, you know? And so I ended up getting this job with, sorry, I'm moving around, through an old colleague of mine. He sent me a Word document. FEMA's looking for disaster assistance employees. No, USA.gov, job, whatever that. No, I sent a Word document to a guy's email and I get any call back, he's like, hey, this is the job. You have no guarantee of work. If you're not working, you don't get paid. You have no health insurance. You have no benefits. Are you interested? And it's 2008. And I'm like, why not, right? It took 9 months for them to go through the background check, right? But anyways, long story short, how I got into real estate, right? I think that's where I was going with this. I don't know. I was working with FEMA. I fell in love and I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't build a relationship traveling all the time. You know what I mean? This just doesn't work. So I had to come back to do something, to get a proper job. And before that, I'd mostly worked environmental science type stuff. And I was, 31 at the time. And I knew I needed to come back, because I wanted to build a relationship. And I said, what the hell am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like, I don't have the 10 years that all these other people have put in where, and I don't have a specific skill. I got a general degree in environmental science, no master's, no PhD. So I was like, I am not interested in going and, starting out making almost nothing where I'm probably going to continue to make almost nothing because of the field that I was in. I don't have a specific skill niche. And so I was like, what am I going to do? So I wanted to try investment, doing real estate investing. right? That was my, So I was doing yellow letters. I was doing, yellow letters?
No clue.
Oh, the yellow letter?
Like, are you interested in selling your property?
Yeah, but you do it in a yellow, right? So you write,
Okay.
it's like on a, so it's like a strategy, right? You know what I mean? Like they call it, there's companies that will actually, you can pay to,
I get a lot of them at my property. They're like, are you interested in selling?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
fuck off.
Right. So I was doing that game, right? I was trying, but it was tough. And my ex was not happy. It was like, you need to do something, and it was, we'll get into this, but I'm not the best manager of things, right? You know what I mean? So it was a lot. Anyways, but what I was also doing was I was going around all these neighborhoods on the weekend. My dad was helping me actually. And I was posting those, we buy houses cash.
Oh my gosh.
I was getting all those, I was going all around town, getting all BS calls, right? You know what I mean? Like, totally didn't know what I was doing, I got I got a couple places under contract, and then you flip the paper. That's, in wholesaling, right? Yeah. And so I was trying to do that because, I always wanted to, passive income or whatever, get into real estate, in not a realtor's perspective per se at that time. So long story short, my best and biggest client I got from those signs, right?
Nice.
So I was putting those signs out. And at some point I decided, I was actually talking to an investor and he's like, dude, you're an idiot. Your mom has been in the business for 20 years. You have a lot, you have an in already. Why are you just trying to do this investment stuff? You can do both. He's like, get your license, man.
So many realtors make their cash from the commissions and then dump it into the real estate side.
Yeah. Well, a lot, but a lot don't. I bet you more than, do you know how many realtors rent?
Okay, this is true.
but I know what you mean.
No, you're right.
The ones that are, have a growth mindset and sort of have that entrepreneurial, which I don't, and I tell you, a lot of realtors don't either.
I retract my statement. More realtors don't buy real estate than those that do.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
I think I saw something the other day that realtors with less than 2 years experience average $8,800 a year in salary.
Probably.
You know what I mean?
Especially
That's
right now.
crazy.
In today's market too. Like, I think I saw a stat, there's a zillion stats out there, but it's like, I think it was like 85% of realtors have only sold one home in the past year and a half or 2 years or whatever.
A lot of them.
It's crazy. I hope we lose a lot of licensed realtors because it's so easy to get a license and then they drop off during these tumultuous times, which leaves more opportunity for somebody like you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
for
so
sure.
Interesting.
Absolutely. And I think, like you hire someone who only does a couple deals. It's like when you go interview someone for like a surgery or something, you want someone who has experience doing surgeries, right?
Yeah, you're not going to practice on me.
This is my first or second one. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? Like it's just, so anyways, but yeah, it's true. I mean, a lot of realtors do it just to sell like their friends' homes or their own home. You know what I mean? And I would say the vast majority of realtors they are not the primary breadwinner in the home. You know what I mean? Like, so whether they sell a home or not, it really doesn't, it doesn't, not that it doesn't matter, but they're going to eat regardless, right? They're going to pay their bills regardless. Sure. Okay. And so that's big. But anyway, so I came back and I met this investor and from the signs, I got my license. He called me out of the blue. And at that point I had gone out and talked to investors and they're all full of shit, right? Oh, we'll buy out. None of them have money because they're all trying to, they're all using other people's money, right? And most of them, I would take them out, show them places, and I was like, I think this is a pretty good deal, right? And no offers. It was just like, and I get it. Investors like, good investors will look at 99 places and buy one because a good investor has their criteria and they don't go outside of that criteria, right? And you stick to that criteria and you don't be chasing because most real estate is from a pure investment. I don't think it's hard to get a good producing property, right? Like asset. Sure. That's why a lot of them are off market. That's why you get the yellow letter stuff, right? Where you get a motivated seller and, but anyway, so I met with this guy, still remember. So I met with this guy, his name's Matt Putnick, who's awesome, by the way. And, so we met at Starbucks in Oak Park. He walks in, and at this point, I truly thought this is just another bullshit. You know what I mean? Where I'm going to sit down and
another
this
coffee.
guy, and then there's another coffee. I'm going to send him properties, and he's going to be like, "Oh yeah, no offers, nothing." Right? So no, it didn't happen. I mean, we did a lot of great projects together. We ended up buying. It's a funny story. So they went to this. This has a Florida tie to it, I think. So we went to this old farmhouse from like 1890 in Oak Park, big house, right? go down in the basement. And you could barely walk, right? You had to it was dirt in the basement. You had to it was 4 or 5 feet high and stuff like that. So end up eventually getting it under contract. It was not as easy as just we made an offer, right? That's a whole nother, but we got it under contract, I think $275 or something. The people who had lived there, some guy owned it and he let his kids just basically destroy it. They went down and he was down in Florida, living in Florida, kicked him out. He paid $170,000 out of pocket to close that property just to sell it. Instead of just letting it die, just letting it go.
That's crazy.
He brought that money to the table. I think that's pride. I've got a couple stories with pride like that where people.
That's insane.
It's insane.
Because right? the alternative would be foreclose, right? The bank takes it over. You lose your equity.
Yeah.
Whatever. Then you have the 7-year foreclosure history on your credit. So depending on what he was trying to do, I mean, I wouldn't bring $170,000 to closing.
Right? But it worked for us, right? So
that's crazy.
But I really didn't know if up until we closed, I was not sure because I'd never done a deal with this guy before. You know what I mean? Whether we were actually going to close on it.
Yeah.
We ended up so we closed. They closed on that. It took almost nine months or something for them to get that project done. It took, I think, 9 tons of dirt out of the basement or something like that. Insane. It's crazy. The guy lost his shirt. The guy that that bid on the job, right? So ends up that
they took
because we
dirt?
made 9 foot. We had 9 foot ceilings.
So you dug it out
the entire basement, right?
Okay.
I mean, this house was spectacular, right? It was awesome, and these guys did amazing work, right? There's so much garbage rehabs out there. You really have to be careful with. There's a lot of shoddy rehabs,
Sure.
These guys did really good quality work, and so we ended up in that process. We ended up buying another one in Forest Park because that one was still working, and we ended up doing a lot of projects. But he's a realtor, my investor, but he wanted a local realtor because he saw the value in that, right?
Sure.
So that project we did, this is, I think, also the testament to timing and the luck of things that I think as a seller especially, you need to understand, right? That it is luck sometimes, right? So we, of course, when you're doing a big project, you're going to almost always be the top of the market. You're going to be shooting, you're going to be pushing that high end. That's what investors do, right? You do in rehab, you're trying to get the best, probably the highest priced home in the area, right? So we're pushing the price. We were like $930 or something like that. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But the project was being delayed, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, you guys, we got to get this out here. We got to get it somehow. I got to advertise this property because we're going to lose that and you're going to be in the wintertime and you're probably not going to get this sold. So I listed it with renderings. I paid for 3D renderings and stuff like that, floor plans. Get a call, I think that day. Show it on Saturday morning. It's drywall. It's just drywall. And full price offer.
That's crazy.
Cash, right? And that guy was about to sign a contract on a property up 2 blocks away that he was going to buy, that he didn't want to, but he was fed up. He'd been looking for a property for 2 years, walked into ours. Had I waited a week, he would have bought that other property.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
There's so much luck tied to just business success and success in general. So I've been listening to an audiobook, The Psychology of Money. Have you ever read it?
No.
So it talks about Bill Gates and him going to, I actually don't like Bill Gates. I think he's a very evil human being, by the way. But anyways, it talks about him going to the high school he went to, which there were maybe 5 high schools in the country that had computers at that time. And he went to one of the 5 that had the computers, and his partner whoever it was, they were able to check out the computer and go and do all these things. So the luck to be in a high school that had one of 5 computers and then go and spin off and start Microsoft. There are so many people across the country that never had that opportunity, but a lot of success comes down to luck. Mark Cuban always says, to be a billionaire, you have to be lucky. And yes, it's tied with hard work and all these other things, but sure. I understand where you're going with the luck. And I think a lot of people think that they can just work ultra hard and power through everything and they're just going to make all this money. There's a lot of luck involved in so many different facets.
Had I not, that investor for certain years was quarter of my business. You know what I mean? Had I not met him, it not only that, but it really gave me that was when I was starting my career, and it really gave me a good name in the community because we were doing really quality projects.
Sure.
And I got a lot, and I marketed those well, and I sold them well. You know what I mean? And so I got a lot of confidence for me, but 100%. Also just the other agents in the community. It really opened up my networking because people would call me me with deals. They would, you know what I mean? They would be in, and so it really that was and that was total luck. Had I not put that sign up for some, you know what I mean, and not got that call, I wouldn't have met him. You know what I mean? I don't know that I would have got that. Get an investor that was such a good. They were good people too, right? They were awesome to work with. You know, the type of people like me where it's like I want to do what's right. You know, like, so we had a situation once where there was water. Speaking of water, we were talking about water before this, where we had a property that we were like a week before closing, basement flooded. It was a massive storm. And so the buyers, of course, were upset. And my clients were like, listen, my investors were like, we're going to do what we would do as if this was our house, right? We are going to fix this problem, right? We're not. And so, whether they walk away or whether they don't, but like, we are going to fix this problem. A lot of investors aren't like that. You know what I mean? They're not.
Cover it up.
They're going to cover it up. They're going to pretend like it didn't happen. They're going to try to clean up the mess. And you know what I mean? And I really liked working with them because more than anything, like I'm an honest guy. I'm not interested in misrepresenting anything for money, to make a little bit of money, because your word is, once that goes, it's super quick to lose it. You know what I mean?
Years and years and years to build it.
Yep.
5 seconds to lose it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yep. Absolutely. So, anyway, so yeah, it could take some luck, but you got to work hard. You know what I mean? Like, not that you have to work. Let me put it that way. Right. I mean, that there is you have to know what you're doing. You have to have the knowledge base. You have to have the skills.
I think opportunity is when luck and hard work.
Yeah. Me. Yep. I was searching for I knew there was like a thing for that.
Yeah,
I like a saying for that. So yeah, so I don't know so what else you want to know about me?
So let's go back into you falling in love the day before you leave, because that happened to me.
Yeah,
right? Like not the day before, but my fiance and I met 1 month prior to me moving to Miami.
Okay,
and the only way that we were going to be together is if we were in the same physical location. Like, I was not like long distance, no chance.
No.
I'm going to Miami, and hindsight, now spending 3 years in Miami and then now moving back here, it changed my life trajectory significantly, bringing a significant other down there versus not in like a I'm going to go sleep around with everybody type of way, more of like I was going to use my singleness as leverage to climb, I guess, the social media world. That was my approach, is like, I know I can, like, I'm a good looking guy. I know I can like climb this. But then when you have a significant other, like, your whole entire like world changes, I guess. For me, and this is always funny. So money was so valuable to me at a young age, and I had it early, and it allowed me the confidence to like get my fiance, for example. Once I have a significant other, now that I'm about to get married, my money focus is like so much lower than when I was single, because I would use that as leverage. I'd be like, hey, I got this plan. I took my fiance to all my properties right when I met her. I was like, this is my plan. This is my vision. This is exactly where I want to go in life and how I'm going to do it. And you want to come along. You know what I mean? Like, so that was my ploy. Now that I have that, I'm like, my money focus is way down, which is very interesting change that I'm seeing in my life currently. Cool. Super interesting.
I mean, I think for me, that in maybe not the money aspect of it, but the settling down and sort of staying in a place versus traveling and trying to that's why I got into real estate, trying to get a job that I could make enough money to provide for my ex-wife and myself. You know what I mean? Where before, most of my jobs, environmental science, you know what I mean? I like working outside. Money was never like the main focus. And I have a very, I think the way that I was raised is I have a challenging relationship with money, right? Growing up the way that, I think money is, I think they say, like the biggest issue in most couples, in most families, right? So,
that and sex.
Yeah.
Money and sex.
All right, that and sex. All right, cool. So, yeah, right. But anyway, so for me, it was, from our conversation, I think you grew up with an entrepreneurial, somewhat, you had an example of someone who went out and became an entrepreneur and was successful. Right. I grew up with fear. My money mindset is fear, and I need to change that. I'm trying, and I'm like reading books about it and stuff. But there is this gets very subconscious, right? You know what I mean? But like when your parents are scared of money, You become scared of money.
Like that they're never going to have enough, so they save. And
it's always limited. They won't take risks, right? They're not going to. When I got in the business with my mom, so getting back to, so I ended up getting in the business. I told you my mom was, so I partnered with my mom, right? And, as I would talk to her about, we need to hire an assistant, we need to grow. It was always, that costs too much. It costs too much. Or let's do some advertising. It costs too much. Everything was not about how much are we going to make if we spend this money, right? Like to grow into higher levels, right? Where you're not sort of just grinding this out, which is what, happens to a lot of people. You get burnout. I got real burnout.
My mom's going through that right now, man. It's like
with her portfolio
and sales, like she's been grinding her face off for 16 years. Like she's well, she could retire, whatever. Like she's earned any right to decide, which is very unique position. But she's like, man, I don't really like. I'm getting burnt out.
Yeah,
it's an interesting.
I think that some of it goes to what you want out of life, right? You know what I mean? Like what's most important to you, right? Like because, a lot of people just a lot of realtors have challenging marriages because they're always on call. Right? It's like you're out to dinner and like you are trying to get $1 million house sold, right? Like you're going to lose that if you don't, sometimes like you have to change your plans, right? You don't have a normal life, like, and you have to be willing to do that. But there's also how much you really want. I mean, how much money do you need? What's comfortable for you?
That's where she's at.
You know what I mean?
That's where she's at. Like, dude, how much real estate do I need? Like,
yeah.
What am I aiming? Am I going to hit 100 million? Do I have to? Like, what I mean? It's like, I think, yeah.
But so I think for me, it's been, we talked a little about struggles. I think a big struggle for me is that mindset of really growth mindset and sort of the fear of like, where is this going to come from? I was joking with some clients the other day. Like I did well last year, right? But a lot better than the year before. It's like, it's January 1st. I'm nobody. I'm nothing. Mm-hmm. I might not make a dime this year. Reset. You know what I mean? It's like a reset. And and so I think for me, like just, having not be as organized or as the ability to, I'm like a lone wolf, right? I'm not that great at managing people like I would like to be because you in this business to really grow, to get to those $100 million numbers, you need help. You know what I mean? You need help. You can't do it all on your own, right? And so I think for me, it's been a challenge to sort of like throw money out there that I'm like, wait, when is my next commission going to come in? And then to try to grow and expand. And so I think that limiting money mindset has been really a struggle for me in this business.
I think it always comes, do you know Alex Hormozy and Layla Hormozy?
No.
So big social media. I highly recommend following on social media. They're very, very intelligent at a young age. They're like mid-30s, but... So it always comes down to internal reflection of yourself, right? If you can't train and put in processes, your employees are going to make mistakes or whatever. For example, that chair right there that I bought, it's a computer chair. It's a pretty expensive computer chair, but I sit in my computer a lot, so I was comfortable spending the money on it, right? I go and I'm like, I need a black chair. The brown one was on display. That's a brown chair. I needed the black version. So the guy at Office Depot is like, okay, he rolls out this version. I'm like, okay, like, is this the black version? He scans the SKU. He's like, yep, according to the SKU, it's black. I stupidly didn't check, right? I get home and I start putting it together. I'm like, this is brown. And I'm like, man, the simplicity of my ask. It was the simplest thing, and you still messed it up. Yeah. And I know 100% that there's so many people that are entrepreneurs and business owners that have a fear and a frustration of their employees making mistakes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mistakes and frustration, like that's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
But it is extremely frustrating when people don't act with the same urgency as you. They make the mistakes and it costs you $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
Yeah.
Like you, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you almost have to bake like a mishap or a mistake into your budget and just count it as gone. Because no matter how hard you train somebody, they're never going to work as hard as you because they don't have equity in the business. And like so many people, honestly, don't have what it takes to deal with that.
Yeah.
Like they just literally like like I get so frustrated on stuff like that. It's like, why don't you think as efficiently as me? Like, why don't you think this way? And it's like, to train somebody to think that way, you got to get the right person with luck, pay them enough money, probably top side of the earnings for that particular job. Like, there is so much that goes into employees, and I think it's selfish to not have employees if you do have that ability. But it's like such an interesting ball game, juggle space. Like, it's
I can barely manage myself. So like then managing people and having that, you know, I have a big fear of failure. So like for me too, that like idea that like a client's going to look at like, you know, I used to be so terrified any little thing that went wrong or any like, you know, that they would be, you know, think that I wasn't a good realtor or something like that. And, you know, giving up control is tough in when you're the face of the business, you know? And so that has been a challenge for me too. Like, you know, getting out of that mindset that I have to do everything, that I have to be everywhere, you know, all the time. So yeah, I mean, listen, I've enjoyed my career. There's a lot of ups and downs. I gangbustered it for a while but it was burning me out. But I would really like to expand more. And that is a challenge when you have some of the limiting beliefs that I have. I mean, just truly being honest about it. You know what I mean? I think, and limiting beliefs are, this is a real estate pod, or, you know, but like, I think that people who don't have them can't quite grasp how hard it is for people who do. Right? So you don't have the same limiting beliefs that I do. I think I can clearly see that between us, right? Your experience, your portfolio, you know what I mean? Just like what you're doing, right? You know, like where me, it's harder for me to go out to get out there and do those things with confidence, right? And so, yeah, so that's been a huge, you know, struggle for me to grow and to sort of expand. Yeah, so
interesting, man. So back to your falling in love before the day before.
You want to keep going back? Yeah, sure.
Got to touch.
So go on it. What about it?
So explain that process. So did you end up with her?
Yeah. We were married for 8 years. We were together 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you already say that?
No.
Okay. No. So married 8 years, together for 11.
So, you know, one thing about the long distance, I will tell you this, okay?
Yeah.
It was a little interesting. I thought I actually, so we met, I mentioned on a Sunday, and I fell in love that day, right? So it is what it is. But what was sort of nice, actually, looking back on the experience, was I went to Connecticut. I was working in Connecticut for 2 or 3 months, and we were able to get to know each other on the phone without the physical aspect of it right away. So to really get to know each other before. And I think when the physical,
that's very valuable.
Yeah, when physical comes in, it can be different, right? Because
puts blinders on.
Yeah, puts blinders on. You get great sex, and all of a sudden everything they do, it's like, I can deal with that. I can deal with that, right?
Heck yeah.
And so, you know,
that's very valuable.
So it was, you know, we literally spent hours and hours and hours on the phone every night.
That's amazing.
And yeah, and then that's like I said. So then, what do you want to know about it though? So I came back. That's when I made the decision that I had to do something different, and I had to not be traveling around all the time.
So you moved back, and the relationship that you established was with her at that time.
Yes. So I continued to work for FEMA I did 2 years with FEMA and traveling, but we were you know, she came in and visited me. I actually was so she ended up getting cancer, diagnosed with cancer about 3 months after I met her. So a lot of people would have walked away, right? But I was in love with her. And so one of the benefits...
Yeah, that's true.
One of the benefits... 3 months in, you know, I mean, I wasn't, you know, you know, so anyways...
You're a good man.
But when you love someone, I mean, when you love someone, you know, things are different. And so... So one of the benefits of my job, and one of the things that I like about my real estate, because although we can't make our schedules like people think, like, oh, you make your own schedule, but with FEMA, I was an on-call employee, and I had the ability to work when I wanted and not work when I didn't want to. This is how it worked. Talk about it. So there was a 1-800 number that I would call, and I would push 1 if I wanted to work and 2 if I didn't. And if I wanted to work at 1, then I would just wait for the phone to ring, and someone would call me and say, hey, you want to go to Minnesota? You want to go to Connecticut? You want to go here? And so when my ex-wife, was diagnosed with cancer and then got the treatment and everything and had to do radiation, I took the entire time off, and I took her every day to radiation for the entire time. You know what I mean? And I was able to do that. And so I've always wanted to have a job that I can
Freedom.
do. Freedom. I mean, I go to Brazil. I go to Brazil for about 30 days, 30 days every year if I can.
Sure.
I just spent 23 days there. I try to spend 30 days in Brazil every year.
Sure.
What job can I do that? You know what I mean? Like what you know.
Freedom that real estate brings is so valuable. Like so valuable.
It can be freedom, but it can also be, you know what I mean? Like there is this side of it, right? Because I can go do that, but I also might have like little things in life, right? Like I want to go out on a hike with my girlfriend, or you're not my girlfriend, but you know what I mean? Like on Saturday morning, or I want to kayak, and I've been working all week, and then Friday night, and I planned it, with my friends, whatever. Friday night, $500,000 property comes on the market. Your clients want to go see it the next morning. It's the only time they got
cancel plans.
Cancel plans, right? I mean, what are you going to do?
Sure.
And so, I mean, you have to know that going into the business.
Yeah.
And I think you have to make peace with it. But and I think you need to learn early on as a realtor. You need to set better boundaries. Sure. I didn't set boundaries. I think for new realtors, you need to be able to set boundaries. I used to, like, going back to the feeling like that people were going to think I wasn't good or working for them. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm responding, to shit that doesn't need to be responded to at 10 o'clock at night.
Sure.
If you are buying a house and we're in a multiple offer situation, and that's when you work at 10 o'clock at night. I signed contracts at midnight because we needed to get it done, or we were going to lose the deal. Yeah. But just just normal responses. It's just, and so you get burnt out when you do that sometimes. Yeah. But so going back to that, yeah.
Did your ex-wife make it through cancer?
Yeah, she had way more issues than cancer. Cancer was the easiest thing she dealt with health-wise, actually. So, in all honesty, cancer was the easiest thing that it was a nightmare of health issues. So yeah, she made it through it. The cancer, yeah. But that's why I made the decision that I needed to do something that I wasn't traveling, and also I think something that I always liked the idea that, like, if I work harder or more or, smarter, or I luck or whatever, that I can make more money. Yeah. The idea of, like, always knowing exactly how much. I mean, there's a downside to it because you don't get money sometimes. But, like, that to me, when I was, I have a hard time with that, right? Like, sure. I want to be able to have a lifestyle that I think I don't have a specific skill where I can go make $300,000 at, like, a doctor or an account. You know what I'm saying? Like something like, or computer, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so it's, some sort of sales or entrepreneurship. And I don't consider real estate sales, by the way. Real estate is not sales to me. No one thinks that. You're in sales. I'm not in sales.
You can't force somebody to like a home. Is that what you mean?
No, what I mean is this. Real sales is this. I tried to do this because when I told you I got burned out of the business and I was thinking about doing something different, and I've always wanted to do something with Brazil. And so I speak Portuguese, and, like, I was trying to sell financial products to companies, right? Like international loans.
Okay.
They're on a status. A person who's going to buy a house has made the decision to buy a house. You're not selling them on the idea of buying a house. They're buying or selling a home. They might not do it with you, but it's not a pure sales where you're cold calling people to try to get them to completely change what they're doing in their business. Yeah. Right? Like, you want to buy something totally different? No, they haven't even thought about that. Yeah. People who are buying or selling real estate have made that decision. They're going to. They might not do it because they don't find something, but they've made the decision. You have to sell yourself, but you're not selling the idea of buying a home or selling a home.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think that's a huge distinction, though. I don't think people. To me, it's a huge distinction because, once again, I'm selling myself, but I'm not selling a product in that sense,
That's an interesting way to look at it. So Brazil, you speak Portuguese. You spend 30 days, try to spend 30 days a year in Brazil. It sounds like you've lived Brazil, Connecticut, New York, or at least worked in Connecticut, New York.
Yeah.
Where have you all been?
Minnesota. So honestly, outside of the Oak Park area, that's the bulk of my life. I've spent almost all my life there. But I mentioned I worked down in Florida for 6 months, right? When I first got out of college, I worked down in Florida, lived in a tent for 6 months.
That's crazy.
Because I used to
live the Everglades?
right west of the Everglades, right? Okay. So it was just outside, enough elevation that there was, like, bears and panthers. It was awesome. I mean, I'm a nature guy. That's what I need, right? And so I went down there. I lived down there, but I've never lived anywhere more than a year outside of Chicago. Sure. Right. So, like, I was in Brazil for 9 months. I was in New York for 9 months, which was a job. I've worked over a year of my life in Minnesota, but not at one time, right? Because Minnesota has constant disasters, right? And so I was there all the time, right? I fell in love with Duluth, by the way. I want to move to Duluth, so that's one of my dreams, right? So, and then of course the prices skyrocketed like everywhere else in the world. So it's nowhere in this country is affordable anymore. So yeah, so I have a huge ties to Brazil, right? Honestly,
why Brazil?
I joke with
I've never been.
No, for sure.
A lot of Brazilian, like the person I bought my house from in Miami was Brazilian.
Oh, Miami is so filled with Brazilians.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
So
I joke with people like they asked me. I was like, you could ask me that no matter where I told you if I said I was India or China, you would say why China. So I'll tell you the story. So funny. Talk about luck, timing, right? I mean, so I am also a huge metal fan. I'm a huge music guy. I'm crazy about music. So music and nature. So that's me, right? So I was at a party. Funny, this sounds funny because I just met one of the guys who was there at Costco yesterday, right? Who he moved Oak Park. Because everyone moves Oak Park because it's the best fucking place in the world. And so, anyway, so he moved Oak Park, and I met him at this,
I got to get out to Oak Park.
Man, come out. I'll show you around, man, for real. Okay. Come out. I'll give you a tour, man. There's so much awesome stuff in Oak Park.
I'll take you up on that for sure.
It's awesome. There's so much cool architecture. It's just got a cool vibe to it. I think the homes it's stunning, right? So, and there's just a lot to do and whatnot. But
pretty sure my fiance's grandma's from Oak Park.
Really? I think I probably know her.
Devan.
That's the last name?
Devan, yeah.
I'm a face guy too, but I actually sold a house. So no one leaves Oak Park too, right? I sold a house that was in the same family for 98 years once. And I told him, I said, hey, can we wait 2 more years so it's even 100, man? Keep it in the family for 100 years,
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. But so anyway, so the Brazil story. So I was wearing a Sepultura. It was a band of Sepultura. They're a Brazilian heavy metal band. Okay. And it looked like a Brazilian soccer jersey. And the name was on the back. But the front looked like a Brazilian soccer jersey. So this guy walks up to me, and it was a party for this organization where we would bring concerts to the school. Okay. We would manage everything related to concerts, like everything. We'd sell the tickets, we'd do everything. And so this guy walks up to me, and he's like, hey, are you Brazilian? I was like, no, I just like Sepultura. And he is now, to this day, he's one of my dearest friends. I went on the first date that him and his wife went on together. And as funny story, when he closed the door, I said, you're going to marry that woman. 2 kids. So anyway, so he's like quasi-Brazilian. That's funny because he's not even Brazilian, right? Okay. But he was spending his formative years there. Okay. So I love animals. Wildlife or environmental science is what I got my degree in. And after college, we lived together for 2 different years in college. After college, he went down and he got involved in working with wild animals. And I was like, I'm going.
Sure.
And I had went down and fell in love with it. I stayed 2.5 months. This was in 2002, I think. And I fell in love with it. I had always, as a child, wanted to live somewhere else because I think Americans are very myopic. I think that they're very, centered on America. And I always wanted a different experience.
Yeah, that different experience is super important.
Yeah, and I always wanted to speak another language. For some reason, I always just I just don't think America's everything, right? The United States. I always felt that there was I just wanted to learn from and experience other places and how other people live, and maybe have a place to go to, which to potentially, have another home, and so that's what happened. My first trip around Brazil, the stuff I do in Brazil is people go, oh, it's not normal. Swimming with jaguars,
Swimming with jaguars?
Yeah, swimming with jaguars, that kind of thing. Little things like that, you know what I mean?
Adventurous animals.
Right. No, but swimming with them in my arms, right? How, holding them and in a pool and passing them back and forth with each other, right? That's not anything that anybody can do, right?
Yeah,
almost anybody,
crazy.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. So I do crazy stuff there. I have a group of friends that are. It's very crazy. It's just fun.
Is
a lot
of fun. An animal sanctuary or something, or
yeah. My friend owns a Jaguar Foundation, a conservation foundation. So I go and travel all around Brazil. I usually don't stay in the city. I stay for a little bit, and then I just spent 4 days with an Indian tribe. And I was just on the phone with them. One of the guys this morning, hunting, fishing with Indians, straight up middle of nowhere Indians, And
that's so cool.
So that's what I do. I do all types of crazy wildlife stuff and just crazy stuff down there.
That's so cool.
And have a group of friends, and I go to farms. My friends own big farms, Wow. So for me, it's an adventure always, and also the language, right? I'm constantly learning Portuguese. right? Every day I do something with Portuguese. I mean, I was reading this morning before I came here, you know, because I mean, I speak it, but not to the level that I want. Sure. I want to be fluent, like completely where I don't everything, you know.
That's so. Tell me some more crazy stories about, or cool stories, whatever, about like Brazil and the jaguars and the hunting, fishing. Do you have any specific, like, funny or good or?
Well, I always joke the craziest thing I ever ate was anteater lungs.
What?
Anteater, giant anteater.
Anteater lungs?
Yeah, lungs. Yeah.
Wait, what? All right. What do those taste like?
I've eaten them twice, by the way.
Are they good?
Not as bad as you would think. It tastes like a burnt sponge, essentially. That's what I would. The first time was like a burnt sponge, right? But
so it's not good.
It's not as but it's not as bad as I thought. No, I wouldn't order anteater lung if I went to a restaurant, right? Okay. Well, I mean, obviously it's not on the menu, but you know, it would not be my first choice. I mean,
why anteater lung?
How did you get
here
into the process of eating anteater lung?
This is So, is that like a social media clip? I eat anteater lung. That's the hook, right? You gotta find a hook in here somewhere, right? So I sell real estate and I eat anteater lungs. So this is the story. So we went hunting with the Indians the first time I went down there. So I did just crazy stuff down there. But
this is so cool, man. Like, I'm actually genuinely interested in this. This is really cool.
So I went down there and I went to spend through my friend. This is all through my friend Gonzalo. I joke with Gonzalo that if I had not met him, I would have a very boring life. But now that I know him, I have fun in Brazil and do a bunch of wild stuff, right? So we ended up, you know, getting into the, you know, going to visit this Indian tribe. Like, you know, that was one of the last Indian tribes in Brazil, I believe, to have contact with the Wadazu, which is white. Wadazu is white people. That's what the Indians call white people. So we went there because we were going to help them do it, which trying to work on a project with them. My friend was trying to work on a project. So we went hunting with them.
Like a jaguar project?
No. A project so, you know, they are, this tribe of Indians has been basically just nomadic for thousands of years. They walk, and then when they don't have more animals to kill, they go start another village. Well, now, of course, they can't do that because it's all farms and they have a reserve. So they're stuck in their reserve. So animals aren't stupid, and it's getting harder and harder for them because they don't stay by the village. So they have to walk hours and hours and hours more to get meat to feed themselves, because they don't have a 7-Eleven. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have a grocery store. They have nothing. They have to kill and hunt whatever they eat.
Have you ever read the book The Selfish Gene?
No.
It talks about evolution. It's so cool.
Really?
Side note, but yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna get some resources from you after this. So, but yeah. So we went. So anyway, we went on a hunt with them, because what they were doing actually was, you know, there's a lot of different villages with this, you know, like it's
reserve?
In the reserve, you know what I mean?
So it's different tribes, kind of.
It's the same Indians. They're the same Indians, but they have different villages. So it's not a different tribe. You know what I mean? It's like
same but different.
Yes, they're called the Shavanchi Indian. So they're all Shavanchis. There's other Indians like the Xingu Indians. But the Xingu don't all just live in one place. They have different factions, like like anywhere else. So there'll be different villages scattered around. And so the government provides them with food. So now they're not healthy because the food that we eat is garbage, right? Okay? So like they used to eat wild.
What a tragedy, man.
It's
like,
horrible.
Such a tragedy.
So when 22 years ago, they were trying to preserve the hunting culture so that the young people would know how to do it, because they were going to lose that, because if it was easy for them to not do anything anymore, because the young kids weren't incentivized. They were given food. You know what I mean? So they were just whatever. I don't know all the details, but so they wanted to be able to have a consistent source of protein. So we were talking about introducing some wild animals for them, like they're called peccaries, to have a consistent source of protein and teach them how to hunt them, because they don't know how to hunt sustainably. Unlike people think the Indians are just these sustainable. They're not. I mean, they would just kill until they were done, and they wouldn't keep going.
Sure.
So we went.
How would you do that? Like, so you would breed, like keep a separate breeding group, and then just let the other ones roam free, and then go hunt.
Well, the idea, my friend knows a lot more about this than I do, but like, if you have it so you can sort of put them in pens every once in a while. So they would be wild, but then get them where you get them into pens or feed them to breed or to kill the ones you want, right? I mean, just so that you know what I mean? Not only just to breed, but to kill
what I thought of was like breed and then just
let them
put
run
the
loose.
babies out there and like
Yeah,
that's
no,
like
no.
your little like simulation game of like going to hunt and then like these ones are over here breeding.
No, I mean, and you also need to teach them that, like, for instance, like, pregnant females and there's just different things, that like trying to teach them to hunt a little bit differently. Like, I mean, I think that they should hunt with blinds like we do. Like, we get up in trees and we have blinds and stuff. They just walk around and hunt and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And try to find an animal. You know what I mean? Like versus let's put some food on the ground. But anyways, long story short, we went on a hunt because they were trying to teach the younger kids how to hunt and how to process the food, the meat afterwards. So they killed an anteater. And so I was there with them, processing, butchering, you know what I mean, doing the things you need to do. So they're doing their old culture. But so you're in Brazil, it's 100 fucking degrees. You are, as an Indian, probably have 5 hours to walk with this animal on your back. It's going to rot. You understand? And you can't carry like the heart and the lungs and the entrails, right? So you eat those there.
You ate it raw?
Well, we threw them on an open fire on the ground. We just like burned some
like a
leaves
bird
on the ground and we just threw it on the ground. And then the rest of the animal.
What a cool experience.
Yeah. So the rest of
that's
the
so
animal,
primal and so
absolutely
great.
for sure. Like you see,
oh my God.
that like that. I think the appreciation of like what we have here in this, like
the
this
energy and effort required to go to the grocery store instead of hunt.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a joke.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, absolutely, right? It's
We are so spoiled.
Yeah.
And people still complain.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And they're just they're just so happy. I actually just really happy. I was talking to one of them. There's going to be a wedding at the village tonight.
Nice.
I asked them to give me a call, but so anyway, so that's my one of, getting back to real estate. That's one of the motivators for me to continue doing the business, because I like that ability to be able to go down there and not have to ask for permission from my boss. You know what I mean? To go, to do that, honestly.
What are some of your plans moving forward the next time you go? Like, what's your next goal for the next 30 days you're going to spend there?
That's an awesome question. So we sort of play it by ear and plan trips. One of the things, but I want to get back to the Indians because this might be something that I got to get off my ass because and do some more work on this. But I like going on different natural areas. But one of the things, I got a really good friend. I'm planning on spending a little bit of time with him. We met just a few years ago and like going. He's owned some farms and stuff like that. Concerts. I'm a concert guy. So when Pearl Jam plays, I'll be there. Pearl Jam, announce the dates, man.
You said is that a metal band?
Pearl Jam, no. Pearl Jam. You don't know Pearl Jam?
No,
Jesus Christ, you're kidding me.
I'm so out of touch with that.
You like any music?
Rap, hip hop, and country.
All right. The exact opposite of what everyone else likes.
I spend so little effort creating playlists and looking for new music that it's like.
All right. So Pearl Jam is one of the biggest bands in history.
Okay.
Anyways, they're a grunge band from the 90s. And so I've seen them 50 times. I'll go to, I'm waiting for them to announce their tour to go. That's when I want to go down to Brazil next year.
Super cool.
So I'll try to arrange stuff around concerts sometimes.
Cool.
But that's not, so the next time, talking about the Indians, right, going back to that, and I guess this might be a podcast about the Shivanchi Indians.
This is
now,
great. This is unique
so
shit.
here's what I want to do, right, and I've been a lazy ass, okay, in all honesty, and so I got to get off my ass, my friends and I have been talking about, when I went to the Indians 22 years ago, imagine that experience, right, you leave and you're just like, oh my God, right, like it's a unique thing, right? There's an energy, there's a feeling
You
there.
feel attached?
Yeah, and also I was just like, I want to do something to help these people.
Sure.
I want to do something to help them.
Sure.
And then 22 years later, we didn't do fucking shit, right?
Sure.
And so when I went to this time, I was talking to my friends afterwards. I was like, let's do something.
Yeah.
Let's really try to do something. We're older now. Some of us have the means, right? Like financially, and other people have time. And so let's try to do something. Even if it's as simple as helping them rebuild a bridge or something. So that's what I'm tasked with trying to. My friends are like, you need to start it because we need to get money from the U.S. And
Or you could get a grant or something to.
yeah, to raise money, even on Instagram, even on social media, to raise money, grants potentially, but also just even with my client base. You know what I mean? I've been, we've talked about starting something small, but the thing is, you need to be able to get money there, right? So
Bitcoin.
It doesn't. No. That wouldn't even work, man. I don't think that would even work.
Okay.
But for instance, if you said to me, "Hey, I like this idea, and I'm going to give you $50,000," I can't just bring 50 grand into Brazil. So we need to set up a nonprofit so that we can actually funnel money there, so that it doesn't get siphoned away, and that it's not. You know what I mean? It's done legally and everything.
Yeah.
So that's what the next time I want to go down and have more of the structure of the we haven't set it up yet, but have the structure of the nonprofit
To be able
to go down there and start the process of like what is going to help them the most. Going back to my real estate, it's not about me, it's about them.
Sure.
Right? Like, you know, what I think they want is not, you know, it's what they want.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, that's I would like to, as I go down to Brazil, get more of a connection where I go to the Indians on a more regular basis. You know,
what are you thinking they're leaning towards? Like, what do you think they're going to need?
So it's funny because what we think they need, or what some of my friends think they need, is like basic sanitation, right? Because essentially what's happening now is they just all go to the bathroom and clean their clothes in the same river. Like, I mean, they don't go like just because they don't, it's right there.
Yeah.
So they bathe there, they do their laundry there. They don't actually necessarily go in the river, but like, you know, when it rains, you know, and so there's not basic sanitation. There's not bathrooms and stuff. But honestly, if we built it, I almost guarantee you they wouldn't use it.
Sure.
So we would go down and build it and they wouldn't use it. And so, you know, for me, I don't know what it is, but I want to go down and spend more time to sort of understand what that might be. I think a little bit of like a 3-day tourism package is what would be potentially something that we could do for them to like get tourists to come in there, spend 3 days
as a revenue stream.
As a revenue stream, yeah, for them to have some money so that they can, you know, provide for themselves, have a better truck because they need to go in the city to get provisions and stuff like that, rebuild their bridges. You know what I mean? Like they have internet now. You know what I mean? Like just money helps.
Starlink?
They have Starlink, yeah. Everything helps. We brought a Starlink down there actually when we were
For real?
Yeah, I didn't like it at all, by the way. No, not again, guys. No fucking Starlink next time because I hated being in the middle of the fucking woods with Indians and they were all on our fucking cell phones, just like we're at a goddamn restaurant. It was like bullshit. I'm like, we're in the middle of this amazing the River of the Dead, Rios das Mortes, with river dolphins and crocodiles and piranhas. We ate piranha. We fished piranhas, fished and ate piranhas.
That's crazy.
And you know, and I'm sitting there and they're on their fucking phones. You know what I mean? Like, you know, part of my language, but you know, and I'm just like, come on, guys.
Enjoy
we're here. You know, 22 years ago, they didn't have lights 22 years ago. Wow. They had nothing 22 years ago. So anyway, so you know, so I don't know what they need, but I do think that like a consistent source of income would be good. You know, so the type of that potentially would work for them. I mean, that would be something because that if they were able to generate that, it's not like.
But then again, do they want that?
They want it. I mean, they want. Yeah. I mean, they want to have better quality of life. I think is what it is. You know what I mean? They want to be able to have like where they have, you know, better food, more opportunities for the kids. You know,
do they have the opportunity to integrate like directly into like the community in Brazil if they wanted, like leave the tribe?
Yeah. And some of them do, but there's just like racism everywhere else. You know what I mean? There's a stigma against them. You know what I mean? And yeah, so some of them do. There's actually an interesting story that like I think maybe 40 years ago, one of the chiefs, when the white man started encroaching on them, realized that they needed to be able to they needed to be able to speak Portuguese or they weren't going to survive. He had that vision, so he sent, I think it was 5 or 7 boys out into Brazil to learn Portuguese and get educated.
Come back.
I know one of those guys actually.
Really?
Yeah, and so they then brought their Portuguese back so that they could interact with the Brazilian, the Brazilian Portuguese, so that they could defend themselves and have some fighting chance of not being totally taken advantage of, you know? And so, yeah, they can. I mean, the guy that I was talking to this morning, the kid, they're in a very flux state right now. I mean, I was talking to this kid today, my friend's son. He's never hunted. He plays soccer all day. He left. He got educated at a school. He speaks Portuguese. They didn't speak Portuguese 22 years ago. That was something for me that was awesome because this time I could communicate with them.
Yeah.
22 years ago, they didn't speak Portuguese and I didn't speak Portuguese, right? So it was very, very different. But they're in a weird, you know what I mean? It's like I think they want to preserve what they have, but they also, you know.
But it's kind of like, it's like society's forcing
choices to be made that they don't necessarily want to make. Reminds me of
fair
when I
enough.
have to
absolutely.
eat.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, so this is a way less extreme example, but like with the health in food, for example, which is a very big topic right now, all the dyes, all the stuff in food that is terrible for us, but we don't have the decision to choose anything else, and it's our fault. You know what I mean? Like,
hey man,
seriously, like, let's look at the system here.
Yeah.
So they're kind of in that situation, I feel like, but I don't know. That's such a cool experience and a thing that you've like dove into. I try to learn from experiences like that, right? So like you telling me that story, I'm sitting here like, wow, this is super unique and super cool. And I wish that I had some sort of cool experience like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So, I mean, I mean, you know, when people ask me why I do real estate, there's a number of reasons. One, I love people. I was talking to you earlier before we started this podcast. Like, I am not an entrepreneurial mindset. I don't have that. I'm trying to work better at that. You know what I mean? And, you know, read the books and get out of my comfort zone and stuff like that. But that's not my natural. My natural is like if you ask me, if you said I could give you double your salary, but you'd sit at a computer all day, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't, because I need to help people
Interact.
when I'm helping a seller or a buyer work through the hurdle that is emotionally difficult for them, right? And helping them not make mistakes, right? Like, I mean, you can make mistakes in real estate cost a lot of money.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, they're very expensive mistakes. Okay, real estate is it's a big boy game, right? Like, it's big money. For almost anybody, it's the biggest financial transaction of their life.
100%.
Even billionaires, generally, their house is going to be the most expensive, even, you know what I'm saying? So I need that interaction with people. That's why I do this. I mean, you know, to me, when I'm walking through the buying process or walk into a home and helping people understand why they shouldn't buy that home, which I joked to you about earlier, and helping them make a good decision and really get a good property, because there's a lot of shitty homes in Oak Park, man. There's a lot of garbage homes or homes that are just not the right location, whatever, right? But to me, that's why I'm in this business. It's because that rewards me, right? And then nature and music, right? My ability to do things like go to Brazil. My ability on Tuesday morning to maybe kayak if I want to, right? You know what I mean? And, you know, have some of the resources, or, you know, everything revolves around Oak Park. So I'm going to, and I usually don't go places that I have to pay for lodging, by the way. So think about this. I go to Brazil for 23 days. I don't spend a dime on sleeping.
For real?
Think about going to if I went to Europe for 23 days, it would cost me probably 10 grand.
It's so expensive.
You know what I mean? Just to lay my head.
Yeah.
Right. So, I don't do that, but so this is I'll quickly tell this story, a little Facebook story. So all revolving around Oak Park, right? Because it's just incestuous. Like, we all just stay friends.
That's great.
So one of my
there's
greatest,
value in that.
yeah, I'm telling you, there is a lot of value. I think for people who are interested in, you know, communities in the western suburbs, there's something special about that. I mean, I don't know, I don't have kids now, and I'm not, you know, but so one of my dearest friends lives in Tennessee. And he and I have never, since fourth grade, have never spent more than 2 or 3 weeks together. But I mean, he's one of my dearest friends, you know. And so we go see a lot of concerts together. We spend time together, you know. We travel a little bit from time to time. But Pearl Jam, who you don't know, which I'm going to send you one of their songs later, we've gone to see them a lot. So we were going to see them in Nashville. And I didn't used to use social media much. So I'll scroll, but the pandemic got me into it, damn it. And so I'm scrolling through social media, and all of a sudden I see a post from another Oak Park friend of mine that I have not seen for 25 years, since like graduation. And it was like her playing in Nashville. So I was like, holy shit. So I reached out to her and I was like, do you live in Nashville? She's like, yeah, I live in Nashville. And so me and my buddy came, we stayed with them. He stays with them now on his own because he goes to conferences in Nashville. Yeah. I haven't been friends with her for like 25 years. Now her and her husband come, they stay at my house in Christmas. They stayed at my house last Christmas, you know. Nice. We're going down again to stay with them. Yeah, and it's like, I think that's that connection, you know what I mean? So, I don't know where I was going with that, but you know what I mean?
Can we, let's dive into this.
You said you had shoulder surgery
Yeah.
like 3 times. You want to dive into that side of things? We talked a little bit off camera.
Yeah. Well, you want to, so I'll talk about it. Right here's my once again sort of the funny how I'll tie this back into Oak Park, right? Because Oak Park is my bread and butter. It's where and I love it. I mean, I sell other places, but I definitely sell other places. That's something that sometimes people think I only work in Oak Park. They don't give me a referral. I want to make it clear that I do work other places, but I know Oak Park, River Forest, Berwyn really well, and Forest Park. So when I was younger, I went out to New York. I was actually working out there in New Jersey, and I went to visit a friend of mine, an old Parker, who there's all types of stories about those, So she's a dear friend of mine, right? And we went out and just partied, right? So it's like everyone's like, New York is so expensive. Well, we ended up at this place, $1 shots of tequila.
There you go.
And she knew the places, right? Because she was going to school there, right? And I was just like, so we get in there, and New York is like a third world country. I don't know if you know, like what I mean by that is like, it's such old buildings and architecture. They're so like the stairs are all steep, the bathrooms are all disgusting. You know what I mean?
Like the 3rd floor of a Brooklyn apartment in 2018.
What part of Brooklyn?
Carroll Gardens.
Okay. I lived in downtown Brooklyn when I was with FEMA. Okay. I stayed in the Marriott in downtown Brooklyn. And nice. I mean, I moved around and lived in Queens. I lived in Manhattan. I lived in Brooklyn.
I just was at an event at the Marriott in Brooklyn for family offices.
Oh, yeah?
They had an event there. It was a lot of fun.
Cool.
A couple months ago, maybe three months ago.
The one right by the bridge, right? By the Brooklyn Bridge? Yep. That's where I was. That's where I stayed for my first few like a month or so. Anyways, nice. in there. But anyway, so I went out to visit her, and $1 shots of tequila, like cheap beer, and the stairs were super steep to get down to the bathroom. And honestly, I walk in and I went down the bathroom and I was like, I think I'm gonna fall down these stairs tonight. And sure enough, about 2 hours later, I fell down the stairs. I tore my labrum.
Sure.
And I didn't get it fixed for like 4 or 5 years actually. So I got it fixed with another Oak Parker that sold my mom. My mom sold his house, and he's a doctor and works with the Bulls and the Blackhawks and the Bolton Bears and everything like that.
You were taking well care of
him. Yeah.
There you go.
And so, but I didn't take care of myself afterwards. But anyway, so I did the shoulder surgery, and then I just don't think I rehabbed it as well as I should have. And I'm super active, right? So for a rotator cuff, 2 of the activities that are the repetitive activities that are not good for it are kayaking and swimming, which are 2 things that I do on a very regular basis, right?
Sure.
Sometimes I used to swim every night, and then I kayak as much as I can, or canoe, and so those are not good. So over the years, and I'm just active, I'm super, and so over the years, my rotator cuff just tore off my bone.
Sure.
And so I finally had to get surgery. I got surgery last October. The rehab went bust. We rehabbed too hard. I tore it again. And I had to do, so in the last year, I